What does pharaoh mean in Egyptian? Great house. As ancient Egyptian rulers, pharaohs were both the heads of state and the religious leaders of their people. The word pharaoh means great house, a reference to the palace where the pharaoh resides. While early Egyptian rulers were called kings, over time, the name pharaoh stuck. What does the white crown that Narmer wears represent? Hijat. White crown. The Hijat was always associated with Upper Egypt and confirmed the rule of the king over southern Egypt. The crown of Upper Egypt is a tall white conical headpiece and was depicted as early as 3000 BC on the Narmer palette. What material did the Egyptians write on? Papyrus plant. The ancient Egyptians used the stem of the papyrus plant to make sails, cloth, mats, cords, and, above all, paper. Paper made from papyrus was the chief writing material in ancient Egypt, was adopted by the Greeks and was used extensively in the Roman Empire. What did Egyptians write on papyrus? For most of Egyptian history, the script used on papyrus was hieratic, a cursive script, 27.3. 560, in later times, Demotic, which developed from hieratic, then Greek and Coptic, 25.8, 14.1. 531, was also used. Why did papyrus cease to be utilized? The large plantations in Egypt which used to cultivate high-grade papyrus for manufacture disappeared, and wild papyrus also began to disappear as the climate of Egypt slowly changed. Fortunately for modern scholars, the dry climate of Egypt has preserved thousands of fragments of ancient papyrus. How did the Rosetta Stone change history? Although it's just a fragment of a larger rock slab, the letters and symbols chiseled into the face of the Rosetta Stone helped scholars crack the code of an ancient Egyptian writing system, and ultimately reveal the civilization's many mysteries. Who built the Sphinx? We still don't know who built the Sphinx. The most widely accepted theory is that it was built during the reign of Khafre, since the head of the lion resembles Khafre's face. Sphinx was carved from one enormous piece of stone? In fact, it was carved from one single piece of limestone left over in the quarry used to build the pyramids. The front paws were built from separate blocks of limestone too. Why was the Great Sphinx built? The Egyptians built Sphinx statues to guard important areas such as tombs and temples. The most famous Sphinx is the Great Sphinx of Giza. Which pharaoh imposed monotheism on Egypt? Akhenaten. There, an odd-looking, untraditional pharaoh named Akhenaten imposed on his people a belief system centering around a single deity, called Atun, represented by the sun disk. For which of the following was a pharaoh believed to be responsible? The pharaoh was believed to be a god on earth and had the most power. He was responsible for making laws and keeping order, ensuring that Egypt was not attacked or invaded by enemies, and keeping the gods happy so that the Nile flooded and there was a good harvest. What did pharaohs do in their daily life? The pharaohs lived in temples and had servants that did everything for them. The pharaoh spent his free time visiting construction sites built in his honor and taking tours of the city in his chariot. They used things such as a small gong, papyrus, a chariot, and a basket to help them get through their daily duties. What was a female pharaoh called? Female pharaohs did not have a different title from male counterparts but were simply called pharaohs. What does the pharaoh hold in his hands? The earliest depictions of the royal crook and the royal flail were found separately, but the crook and flail later became nearly inseparable. A pharaoh held one item in each hand and crossed them over his chest. Once rising to power, a pharaoh had the crook and flail with him at all public appearances. What does the eye mean in Egyptian? The eye is often called the Egyptian all-seeing eye, frequently representing wisdom and protection in Egyptian religion and culture. However, when connected with Ra, the eye represented power and destruction, so it was common for Egyptian rulers to also have the eye on their jewelry and artwork. Is the Horus eye good or evil? It's a philosophical symbol that has a lot of positive aspects to it. There's some misconception that the Eye of Horus is an evil symbol, but this couldn't be further from the truth. The symbol isn't evil, instead, it wards off evil. It protects you from evil, but it isn't representative of evil itself. What god is Anubis? Anubis, also called Anpu, the ancient Egyptian god of the dead, is represented by a jackal or the figure of a man with the head of a jackal. In the early dynastic period in the Old Kingdom, he enjoyed a preeminent, though not exclusive, position as Lord of the Dead, but he was later overshadowed by Osiris. Is Anubis evil or good? Few things were as significant in this goal as the rituals maintaining the cycle of life, death, and the afterlife. Therefore, Anubis was not evil but rather one of the most important gods who kept evil out of Egypt. Who is the god of evil? Apophis was perhaps the only Egyptian god to be all-powerful, with an army of demons at his disposal. The evil god was not worshipped, he was feared. It is also believed that no matter how many times he was challenged, he could never be entirely vanquished. Who is the dwarf god Bes? Initially, as a protector of the pharaoh, Bes became the god of the people, looking after their homes and their children. He was a multifaceted god, who was a serious protector and a merry entertainer. What animal was Seth? Seth was represented as a composite figure, with a canine body, slanting eyes, square-tipped ears, tufted, in later representations, forked tail, and a long, curved, pointed snout. Various animals, including aardvark, antelope, ass, camel, fennec, greyhound, jackal, jerboa, long-snouted mouse, okapi, oryx, and pig. Why was Seth worshipped? It's said that at first Egyptians prayed and worshipped Seth so that he would take care of the dead family members, but over time he became seen as much more evil. Nonetheless, Seth continued to be worshipped for his power and ability to create chaos and violent force. What was Seth responsible for? Seth is the offspring of Geb and Nut. As the god of disorder, he was responsible for killing his brother, Osiris. In the Egyptian dualistic concept of the cosmos, Seth is placed in juxtaposition with Horus, the god who ruled the land with order and stability.